Good afternoon, friends. Does anybody have a topic that they would like to throw out to the group?
Anybody know anything about 1D to 3D science?
Ooh,
Oh, I
Please.
have done a little bit with that. Like there's some work on 2D to 3D around some work I've read around use of apps with young children, use of technology with young children, and the research around that if you want to make, if you're using like iPad apps or whatever, interactive media with young learners, that it's really important that you make sure that what they're seeing on screen. So maybe you're playing with like a wonderful app like My Play Home, which is like a super adorable, wonderful interactive app for young kids. But the idea with that is that's the two-dimensional, and it needs to be combined, not necessarily at the same time, but like before or after, with the same kinds of activities in 3D, right? Like it doesn't supplant playing like in a regular toy kitchen or whatever, but that the idea that those two things come together. That's my understanding of like 2D to 3D and some of the research that's out there, that making sure that we are referencing and following or preceding activities that we do technology-wise with young children with those same things in real life when possible. But
right. So you take like function and structure. So like you have toothpicks with jujubes or marshmallows or whatever, and you make, and so you can make like a little animal, and then but you infuse that into the vocabulary, function and structure, and then at a later point, then you have the student has an animal that they're going to look at, and they're going to look at the foot or the leg, and what do they do? What does that animal? How does that animal use that leg? And to survive, right? So they look at one thing, and then the thing I liked about it most was that you had notebooks starting in kindergarten, and then if it was consistent, which that's the problem, but year after year after year, by the time they got to be juniors or seniors in high school, they were pretty darn efficient at having your notebook being pretty sophisticated. So I thought that was a great idea. I had to leave. I didn't take the full class because it was with Office of Public Instruction in Montana. And but my brother-in-law had an aortic aneurysm, so I didn't take the full class because he died. But anyways, that was last year. So anybody else have any experience with 1D to 3D? Science. Okay.
Yeah, I just put an article in that was talking about what I don't know, and it has to do with, some of it has to do with implications for theory and problem, like skimming this.
Yeah, it's got to do with that. Was it IGSS or objectives? I don't know, some kind of objectives, science objectives. I mean, it wasn't just science, it was curriculum objectives. Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. I've been doing right now, I'm virtual, I'm immunocompromised, but anyways, COVID might go away soon. But I've been working at the community college, and I set up 3 interest classes. One was March 1st. I did Introduction to Assistive Technology and History of 3D Printers. And on March 8th, I did sketching, using brainstorming ideas for assistive technology to help people. I'm in a community member for Perspectives of Assistive Technology at Stanford with Dave Jaffe. I don't know if anybody knows him, but he has community members that have disabilities, like they're in the wheelchair or they have visual impairments, or they have a smashed elbow or whatever, and they need something simple, like how do you feed your pet when you're in a wheelchair, or how do you improve visual, if you're visually impaired, how do you enhance the experience in a museum, things like that. And so that's what I want to do for credit, but I'm just kind of doing baby steps right now. And so that's what I was doing. I actually put out the all the projects that Dave Jaffe was doing, and says, well, we can brainstorm that, or you could use Tinkercad to use to sketch your idea, or you could use Thingiverse and Book Creator if you didn't, if you had a writing disability, or you could use sketching, which is called Rapid Viz. It's a book that you learn how to sketch to brainstorm, but they wanted to learn Tinkercad. So, I taught them Tinkercad. And then the last meeting we had was March 15th, and we did a makerspace orientation with Glowforge laser cutters and 3D printers and vacuum Mayku, M-A-Y-K-U, vacuum form makers. It's a mold maker. So that's what I did, and that's what I'm doing. And then I'm doing a summer experience with junior and seniors in that are coming to, they plan to do 4-year college, but they're doing their 2 years at the community college. And so doing the experiential part of it. And then going from there, doing continuing ed, and then hopefully be a 4-credit class. So that's what I'm working on.
Cool. I know there was some side discussion in the chat on 3D printed. I know I've said this here multiple times. I would love to be doing some stuff with 3D printing. I just don't have a 3D printer, but I need my boss to be on this one of the times that I mentioned that, so that you can get me. Lori, you're on mute.
Of course I am. I'm sure your boss can accommodate you if you can get him into it. Rockford was talking about the 3D printed symbols for core. I have them. I haven't started using them yet with the person that I want to try, but this is what she's talking about.
Did you print them yourself, Lori?
Yes. Yeah, I have a 3D printer here. So if you have something you want printed, Beth, you can send it to me.
No, I think I'm just going to work on, I'll be spending some time this week.
You have your little.
The thing
he has multiple 3D printers.
Yeah. The thing I do here, because we're over 21, is we try to infuse seasonal decor in the building. So we have a door that is doing 4 seasons. It's a tree. So we're doing the 4 seasons with it. We change it up, and I try to put tactile things on it. Okay. So things they can see, but it's okay if they touch. I 3D print like snowflakes and a birdhouse and stuff like that. So they can take them, they're on with Velcro, they can take them off and touch them and feel them if they want. So that's kind of what I'm doing right now until we get further invested in some of these things.
That sort of like reminds me, like I was if anybody went to the ACEs.
I see you, Jennifer, don't worry.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Jen, go ahead. I'm like, you go first.
Oh, that was fine. I was plugging in my iPad because it was dead. I was trying to show you one of the, we've done quite a few
key guards.
So we are 3D printers. Actually, this is my home printer that I've done all this on, but our 3D printer is getting delivered today for school. So I'm super excited about that. So we've done lots and lots of key guards and have had really good success with them. But the other thing that I was just showing my colleagues this morning, pull the stuff back out here, is, and I know we've talked about this, this is the Voiceset. So
I'm working on one of those next too.
yeah, so I finally finished it up. I had spring break last week. You can hear that. So here's my lesson 6 symbol for drink, and it's sort of on, like, my ID badge has, you know, that RF card, that reader, and so then drink.
Oh, that is so cool.
Nice.
Here
Yeah.
I have one of the, like, little sticky dots, and I put it on the bottom of one of the cups my kids don't use anymore, and drink. You just kind of swipe it over. Here's this one, I think that's puppy.
Cool.
Yeah, that was my daughter. So, and then I have, like, one in this little toy, and you kind of swipe it and it says it. So it's sort of like the Prax Tracker, Logan Prax, but it's a little bit different, as I found out. And so it was one that I 3D printed the case and then bought all of the components and put it all together inside.
How did you do with programming? Did you find the programming difficult? That's what I'm kind of slightly afraid of.
Ken's instructions were phenomenal.
Yeah.
And so that's where it was just a lot more than probably getting the Logan Tech device all put together. And the other thing is, like, with that, you can program on that actual device. Whereas this,
you have to send it.
a card reader, and you have to attach the files on an SD card that then goes into the Voiceset. So it's a little bit different. You have to be a little more planned out and thoughtful. What did the cost make it?
That was my next question.
My husband ordered everything for me, but in the end, I want to say it was probably like probably around $150 for the parts. But most of the parts came double, so I actually have enough parts to make 2. So I don't know, it was somewhere between 150 and probably 175.
That's about what my parts cost.
My
My parts went up
the
as
easiest
we were
part was
ordering.
3D printing the case. So that was probably the easiest part of the whole thing.
And one of the
It was
things he
fun
prides
learning.
himself. Go ahead, sorry.
It was a fun learning activity. So I
Yeah.
mean, you've got microcontrollers, and you have to connect them to the computer, and you have to connect to Arduino, and you have to figure out, like, this software and how to record. And so there's a lot of things. It's not for somebody who's not very techy, but it was certainly a fun learning process. And you know, if you have that maker mindset and you go into it with not a ton of expectations and just that you're going to learn, I think it's a really fun project.
Right.
I worked with Arduino robots. Would that be similar
Probably,
this software?
Yeah, probably similar.
The language probably.
Yeah, okay.
The thing that Ken pushes is that you don't have to solder anything for this design. So you don't have to be able to
and
solder.
in my case, the reset button did have to be soldered because the breakout board, it didn't work. So it wasn't completely soldered.
Good to know. I can solder.
Those were parts where my engineering husband came in really handy and could help me figure those pieces out. I probably would have been lost otherwise. But I'm sure Ken, if you reached out to Ken directly.
Yeah, Ken will help you with everything. The nice circle about this is was going to attach a couple of the RDIF tags to those 3D printed symbols for the person that I'm thinking of using all this with. So
the feedback I would probably have for Ken is that the item has to be, like, really close, like even like this, and it's fairly exact. So even though the surface of this is fairly large, it has to be almost right over where the circle is.
Yeah, you have to hit the target.
And so I think for some of our students that maybe you would use it with, that maybe have more intellectual disabilities.
Maybe we can design a target on the top of the box somehow.
Well, and so my husband was like, you should put your business logo on there with your cricket. And I was like, oh, great idea. So I think you could do something like that where you
put a target,
put some sort of target on there, like with,
or just like a circle, so you're not interfering with the layers. But yeah, I foresee that too with the plan.
That's kind of like, I'm thinking my mind is sort of going like this, like, you know, some of those times that maybe somebody has, you know, some certain phrases or whatever, or words that they have as a low tech backup kind of a thing, because that could, it'll read different things depending on what the QR code is, right? So it's not like you're stuck with a single message, whatever it is. And so you could have things where a user, you know, like a user could, I was like even thinking like in a, you know, like in a setting where, I'm just trying to think like some settings where maybe like I was thinking like the lunchroom or something like that, where maybe it's at like a certain place on the table and maybe a student doesn't have their full-on device with them, or their, because, you know, whatever, like just I'm trying to think of certain situations where they might not have their device, or they want to have a really quick phrase and they don't, you know, to be able to just take their, you know, that image, but then what the other student needs is a different thing, right? To be able to say that is, you know, maybe 2 or 3 things that they have, and they can put it over there and have it, you know, with a louder speaker or something that's kind of more communal. That's like making my head churn. I think we need to.
There's a lot of neat
about
ideas.
that, Jennifer.
You can put the symbols on a key ring. Sorry, Jen.
Yeah, you can. I mean, I took packing tape actually. Just took some packing tape and my lesson pick symbol and put drink on there. But you can program whole phrases and sentences, like you were saying, that. So there's, I mean, the possibilities are endless. Ken, in some of his videos, talks about how you can even take these and sequence them together to make like an utterance. But I feel like at that point, then you would be looking at some different technology. But I think phrase-based stuff of it, you know, just for either, you know, some of those more cognitively disabled individuals, or like quick access when you don't have your device for something. I mean, those could all be, you know, you could have a whole key ring of these little tags if you want.
Yeah, I was thinking like even just in terms of some of those phrases that somebody would want some access to, but maybe not be able to. I don't know. I could see how this would work. I'm just envisioning this at like a lunchroom table with like a louder speaker, where sometimes like a kiddo is not, you know, your hands are sticky, or somebody's just different things where you might not have sometimes or you're not wanting to access the device because you just want to say something really quickly, and to be able to do that. I don't know. That's really cool. I'm loving this idea.
You can use it in a job setting too.
Yeah, and that's the other feedback that I guess I have for Ken. The speaker actually isn't very loud on this, so using it in and these were all components that I bought all the components that he had suggested. I think having, you know, like a bigger speaker on it, you know, maybe making some of those adaptations. My husband, who's an engineer, already was like, oh, I think we could make it so that you had a wider range, so it didn't have to be right over the top. You know, so I think those adaptations can be made to it, but I mean, this would be the background knowledge to be able to do that. I couldn't do that on my own.
Yeah, I think he was trying to make it doable and affordable, which is why he picked those parts for now. But there's no reason we can't tinker with it.
Yep,
that's what we do.
So those are some of the 3D things that we've printed. We do key guards by far the most, and they are really pretty cheap. I, like Mary, also have a Prusa printer, and even in the Prusa Slice It software, it tries to calculate. It's just an estimate because they don't know how much you're paying for your filament, but it kind of tells you about how much filament you're using and how much it costs, and they usually cost less than $2 to print these. And they're so customizable. We were just talking about a student, like these, hold it so you can see it. These are called rails, and you can make the rails at an angle. You can make them as high as you want, so you can build it up higher. It takes longer to print them, but that way. But we just have a student that's struggling with these higher rails. We did it at an angle, so we were just talking about all the different ways we can, you know, maybe adapt it because he's having some issues. So that's the nice thing. And like I have a student that's trialing the Sotelo device right now, and their devices are nice because they hinge up, but it's white. When I have these with the black filament on my devices, it really makes the buttons pop out, provides some nice contrast between the buttons. I hate the white one. Their white one actually like raises up a little bit on the screen, whereas this sits flat on the screen, and then it hinges up, and the students play with that hinge like crazy. And so I have a student now who really, really needs it because of some motor apraxia, and yet he's constantly taking it off with that hinge. The white does nothing for his vision. And I asked if they could customize it, and this is the Touch Chat Express, so their iPad-based device in there. Their response to me was, well, you can go to the Nova Chat if that's what you want. The family wants an iPad-based device, and I want to honor that because that's the technology they're familiar with. So I was like, fine, we'll just 3D print them one. Like, that sort of misses the boat. So I really like that we can try them, customize them for so cheap, make changes, print another one. I think that is the value, and it really ends up paying for the printing.
Right. To answer Rockford's chat question, does the cost of filament make 3D printing not very cost effective? Actually, it makes it more cost effective. 3D printing is rapid prototyping. So you can make all the mistakes you want for pennies. I mean, key guard probably cost $1 maybe in filament. I get a lot of use out of one roll of filament here. So
the other thing you can do with the Volt Switch website is that you can print. You can see this one's really, really thin. You can print a test print. So oftentimes, if it's a new one that I'm customizing to a new case, it just prints 2 layers. It's real flimsy. But it tells me if it fits, and I can make sure that it's what I like. And then before I actually do, maybe the 3 to 6 hour print for the key guards.
Right. And we're actually printing, I have to start this week, I have to print some equivalent of jelly bean switches because we're using a few more adapted devices now in our cooking classes, and I realized, oh, I didn't order jelly bean switches and I'm out of money. So I will be making a few of those. It costs less than $5 to make a jelly bean switch on a 3D printer with parts. Yeah, where they charge anywhere from 50 to 80 depending on what company you're going with for a jelly bean switch. I don't have the nice cover on it and everything, but I don't need that part. So
I just wanted to throw out there, I know Naomi put in the Maker Roundtable at the last one, and you can go back and maybe Naomi can throw in the recording, the link to the recording if it's up. But the last one that we had a couple weeks ago, Ken is doing a presentation. I think it was like a half-day presentation, maybe 3 hours, where he is actually going through how to make key guards. And I think it was like a $75 cost. It was somewhere out on the Northeast coast where they were doing it. I can't remember.
I'll have to see if I have it bookmarked.
Yeah, I don't have a bookmark. It came up. If you go back and watch the recording, I'm sure you would get it. But I don't know if that was this week or next week. I know it's coming up. He was doing it.
Hi, Kristen. Or Krista. Okay. Any other questions or thoughts or things to share? I think we got everything in the chat.
Yeah, this is my first time on here. I got it from a Don Johnson webinar. So I'm one of those persons, the weird nut.
Oh, no. Thank you, Naomi, for posting the links to the recordings. All the AT Town Hall recordings are on a YouTube channel, and Naomi just posted that link. If you would like it, I'll see if I can find Ken's.
So what was the cost of the printer?
Depends on what printer you get. I have to have a specific enclosed type situation here, so mine was 2,000, but that includes a lot of filament and plates and everything. Prussia is what, about, I'm going to say maybe 600 or 700 ish before COVID. I don't know what it is now.
It's a little over 1,000.
Yeah. After COVID.
We've had good luck with the Prusa, so.
And they have good support.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Good to know.
Let's see if I can find Ken's. Anybody have something to throw in while I look for Ken's link?
They're making, so they're printing this section.
Yeah, either that, or they can even print this. You could print all those parts.
How much?
We started like 3D printing symbols
odd.
by going to our technology department, our tech ed department. They have 3D printers, and just about all of our schools in our district have a 3D printer. So that's a good way to get started and sort of have a mentor. You know, try printing with our LMS staff. A lot of them know our tech ed teachers have a lot of that technology. So even utilizing one in your district and seeing how it works before you commit to purchasing one can be helpful.
Symbols, what kind of symbols?
Somebody threw a link in the chat before to the Project Core symbols that Lori held up before.
By the time you buy the parts,
It's these are the 3D core symbols, or
you gotta buy the
there,
switch,
that one's upside down.
buy the core.
Oh, okay.
And then there's this, it's all on Thingers. If you go to Thingiverse under Assistive Technology and tool around, you can find a whole bunch of amazing things.
Well, and the other thing is you don't have to get it approved.
Mm.
Just make
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, but you have to still get all the other stuff. Because you still have to go and buy the switch. Yeah.
Right, I'm not discounting that at all. I'm just,
So the 3D core symbols are for who?
They're from Project Core.
Okay, but how, who do they service?
So, for the sake of the record,
Oops, sorry. Wait a minute, sorry. What? Stop. Okay, sorry. I did your YouTube thing and it automatically went into a recording.
Yeah. Ken's, I'll send the link, the Assistive Technology Conference of New England, and they're doing it on virtually via Zoom, and they have all different dates. And he has a 3D printed key guard class from soup to nuts on April 11th. I will put this link in the chat, but there's a whole bunch of other interesting.
all these links, or do I need to?
Excuse me, say it again.
Me too, because I'm not on there.
Oh, okay.
So that is the link to the conference, and then if you scroll down, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 4 different classes on different days.
Lori, did you put it in the chat? I don't see it.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I sent it just to, I apologize. It went just to Kelly Funner because I didn't hit everyone. Sorry, Kelly. Slightly technology challenged today. Everybody should have it now.
Yeah, thank you.
There's just too many things on my desk getting in the way. So I'm going to pick up on something we were chatting about last week when the bring your friends to your coworkers to work crew talked about AAC coaches. I took that back to my team and they got very excited. So hopefully we can work on that in the next, coming months and make something of that, because that's kind of exactly what we need here. So that's my win for the week.
Is anybody involved with Explore Your Horizons?
Tell us more.
There's 7th and 8th grade girls with STEAM. Yeah, it's a nationwide program. We've done it 3 times. So I've worked with oscilloscopes and sensory integration and building a garden kit. What else did I do? Electricity, like using a water, like a Camelback water, water analogy to electricity, that type of thing.
Sounds cool.
Yeah. but it's more inclusive, right? It's not, it's not necessarily the disability population. I think that's what we need to get to, is more inclusivity.
Agreed. Any other ideas? What is anybody working on this week?
I don't think anybody's worked on, was it, lathe, a metalworking lathe. We have a student at the community college who is visually impaired and wants to work on a metalworking lathe.
That's cool. More power to
That's
you.
challenging.
Hey,
I guess-
I was, the only thing my dad did not let me do was go on the roof because I was a total klutz, or cut the grass. He was afraid I would cut my foot off. But every weekend that we were together, he had me down in his workshop doing something. And I can't thank him enough for those skills.
Oh, for sure.
You know,
That's the problem. Girly girl, and I didn't get that experience. I started getting it in college, but not that much, when I was a kid. So I became an engineer, and I realized the deficit that I had because of that. So you have to start them early.
Lori, you asked what we're up to this week. I will
Yes, ma'am.
say, so I'm Kelly Martini. I'm in the Austin, Texas area. I'm the assistive technology specialist for a fairly small school district right outside of Austin. But my big task the last couple of weeks has been working with the curriculum and instruction department on accessible design. This is the time of the year where they're trying to figure out what they want to renew and what they don't want to renew. And I've been kind of a bug in their ear for the past couple of years, like, you guys need to think about accessibility and, what programs, what we have that's working for us. Also just trying to, there's a new position in our school district. It's an instructional technology person. And I don't fully understand everything they're doing, but I think that I want to partner with them. I think that will be a good, when it comes to, I feel like we need to do a big marketing campaign about what does accessibility look like? What does that mean? And making it simple for teachers to understand and utilize. And I mean, our school district uses our learning management platform as Canvas. And again, there's things, updates with that, just getting word out, like some of the features that are on there that teachers could use that our students with assistive technology would benefit from, like the annotation tools that are on the assignment platform for that. So it's just, trying to really hone in on what we have and what features we could utilize to benefit our students, and making sure teachers understand how to do that. So I'm just, talking to a lot of people, trying to put the information out there.
Yeah, that's half the battle right there. They need to be aware of what is available, and then how to use what is available, and then how to integrate it for a student and get the student to use it.
Right. And I'm having to learn a lot myself. Like I've focused a lot on probably upper elementary and the secondary in regard to accessibility tools, but our pre-K, kinder, and first graders and second graders use Seesaw. So I've had to learn a lot. Well, what accessibility features does Seesaw have, and how can we utilize those to benefit our students? So again, just a lot of learning on my part.
Right.
Do you use UPAR at all?
Yes, a ton.
Okay.
Yeah, that's been a great tool.
Okay. Yeah. How about read and write?
We are, we're a Don Johnston district, although Don Johnston and Text Help are now, are
Right.
now one. Yeah, so we've used for years, we've used Co-Writer and Snap and Read.
Co-writer's great though. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've got Texas statewide testing coming up. And they're revamping what the writing piece looks like. And this year, it's only high school that's going to be doing any kind of essay type on their statewide testing. And that's just around the corner. I think it's next week, as a matter of fact. And so I've been getting a lot of calls from administrators because the way our state has it set up everybody has to do online testing. But unfortunately, the online testing platform doesn't have word prediction or text to speech in particular, those two. It has speech to text and spell check and all that stuff. So of course, we're trying to set up 2 devices, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, and we've been doing this for years. I just wish that they could set it up so that all of the tools that we need are on one platform. But anyways, I guess I can continue to hope. So.
It's a never-ending battle.
Yes.
I wish we could do something other than statewide testing, but I don't know what. And I'm very happy none of my kids are in school anymore. Now my grandkids are facing it. It's just
there is a guy in Texas, Origin Instruments. If you have anybody really compromised as far as CP, cerebral palsy, I had a student who was using Read and Write, but she had a lot of errors because her voice production wasn't the greatest, and her mom would go have to edit all her errors because she had just a couple fingers. I mean, it was really, really laborious to type. And he suggested Sip and Puff for that. And so and that's about $1,000 that he told me. That was a few years back, but he's with Origin Instruments. So in case you have anybody like that.
Thank you.
the problem with the testing platform is they don't allow any accommodations. You have to apply for it. And then it can only be on specific, at least here, it can only be on specific computers, and you have to have permission and all this other stuff.
And then what about scribes?
Not for not for state testing.
Okay, so, I mean, then you have to figure out something for her, So anyways.
All right. Wow. That was 45 minutes already. That's amazing. Anybody else working on anything that they would like to share?
I would just like to offer my services out there. I had disability and I'm off of disability. I'm on full Social Security now. And so I'm looking for work, but I'm virtual. So that's sometimes an issue, especially with the schools, especially after COVID. They don't want virtual people anymore. But anyways, and then I really want to work in the assistive technology realm, not the occupational therapy realm so much. So I'm putting myself out there.
And then you need to tap into the Makers Roundtable in April.
Makers Roundtable people?
Yeah, the link, I think the link is up above. Hang on. I think Naomi put the link out for April 20th.
And then I was mentioning AltShift because of, that Mike Murata, he had that spreadsheet, but I don't know the link to it right off the bat. Maybe somebody else does. But for the Austin, Texas person, that it might be valuable for her.
Mhm.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The spreadsheet. Yeah. Okay.
The Makers Roundtable is up in the links about a third of the way down for April 20th. There's a link to sign into that.
Okay.
Oh, maybe it's at the bottom. And Naomi put it in again at the bottom. Thank you, Naomi. All right. Well, if nobody has anything else for this week, we can end a few minutes early. All right. We will see you back here next